Alright guys, let's learn how to do that. Let's learn how to do pivot up tilt, right? So first you gotta have your pivots. I find that having the right controller is gonna make it easier. Right? But once you can do pivots, the pivot up tilt is free, right? So basically, I do the pivot with dash sideways, and then I flick it backwards like this, and I let go of the stick at about the neutral. Like once it gets back to the neutral region, that's when I let my thumb off the stick for a second, and that works for me. Obviously, I've practiced more on the left than the right, but that's because I don't really play on this controller at all. But you'll find that some controllers are way easier to pivot on than other controllers. And if this is honestly like a staple tech, then I would rather have that. Because UCF is going to fix shield drop. UCF is going to fix your dash back. So in reality, only thing I would have my controller doing for me is probably notches and having a controller with good empty pivots. Those are the only things that matter, because at this point, your controller can make it way easier to empty pivot than others. And so you need to make sure you have that, right? Now, other than that, some of the things that we need to talk about. So the first step, we're going to use our finger as a finger guard. And what that means is that we're going to end up placing it up here along the rim. And you see how there's this edge here, this groove? We're just going to rest it in the groove. And what we're going to find is that if we press up and A, as long as we press up, we're going to get our up tilt. And if our finger's in too deep, then now we're going to get jab, right? So we need to recognize if it's too deep, really we just want to rest it nicely in the groove. And we're not going to get up smash, right? Depending on how thick your finger is, you know, you may have to adjust a little bit, but this is what I found for, you know, what I would consider to be a normal sized finger. So from that point, we need to practice a few things. Either one, you'll notice that when I'm playing, I'm dashing around and I'm moving around like I'm not controlling the stick with a half claw. This isn't a true half claw, right? I'm not clawing the stick. I'm not moving it around like this. My finger is just resting here, and then I'm doing stuff. Now, there's the hard version of this and the soft version, right? So, this one's the hard version. Like, well, not in difficulty, but in how this is more rigid. Like, I've got my finger in place, and I'm gripping it, you know, to where it's not going to move around. I've got a nice, strong grip on the controller. And there's another method, though, it's a bit looser, and that's where you have this finger out, because you want to use this part to hit shield or do L cancels possibly, depending on... I would just do the L cancels with this finger if I was using this technique. Just to make it simpler, less complex on the left side, but to each their own. Like, obviously, if you want to shield and wave dash out of shield, then this is still a pretty good option, right? You don't want to press the button like this now, because if your finger's here, you're going to be carpal tunneling like a motherfucker. So really what you want is to you can just lightly press inward like this, right? And that's going to probably save your wrists. So when you're playing like this, we're not actually doing a half claw, or even, you know, but instead there's that option, right, where you're rigidly fixed in this position and you're just going to use your thumb like normal. Or there's the other option where you play like normal, right? You're moving around, and then you switch into this position, do your empty pivot, and then, you know, perform your tilt action. So from that, you want to basically practice doing. So one, if you're in this position, you're already good to go. But if you're in the normal position and you're switching, then now you need to practice switching. So I think that the thing to practice is the dash dance, right? And while maintaining the same dash dance, switch from being, like, that was bad. That was a pause. But you want to, I switched into the top position, right? And then you want to switch into the bottom position. See, now I'm in the top, now I'm in the bottom. Now I'm in the top, now I'm in the bottom. Now I'm in the top, now I'm in the bottom, right? And you want to do that without, you could probably do it on this, on the pivot like that. The last 2 times I switched as I pivoted, right? And then you can do your up tilt. The problem is that this is going to be more of a complex motion. If you're going to try to do the pivot and go into position, you're going to find that you miss your pivot more. So it's better to just switch while you're dash dancing around and then do the pivot, right? Because it's going to be more consistent that way. You know, say you're like coming in with aerials, because like, so one, get in practice of like switching in between the positions, right? Like this, while you're dash dancing around, just naturally. And then the other thing is, you can also do it while you wave dash, right? And if you have the one where you're dash dancing, the other ones are easier. So, you know, you just want to like wave dash, now you're in position. If you wanted to, you could like dash back, pivot up tilt, right? Alright, so as you can see, that's an example of switching into position as you jump. So you can do something like that, or like that, and it sets you up for your pivot into up tilt. If you are, it'll set you up if you're doing your aerial moves. So you can, if you do a short hop or a full hop aerial, you just switch into it as you land into L cancel. Hey, what's up guys? I want part of this video to also discuss pivot down tilts, considering we're already going to be using the finger guard. Now I have a video about how to do pivot down tilts on a GameCube controller, and I like this method more. I think that method for doing pivot down tilts is the best to do them quickly in succession. Like if you want back to back to back to back to back pivot down tilts, that method is probably the better option. However, I would be remiss if I didn't cover how to do pivot down tilts here with from the position of having a finger guard. So when we put our finger guard in place here, right, then we're going to do a pivot. And at that point, as soon as you do your pivot, you want to put your finger on the bottom of this rim. You put the thumb there, and then you're just going to tilt the stick up against your thumbnail. So basically, like, as long as you're on this ridge here, then it's enough that you're going to get the down tilt, right? So you just get in the ridge, so you can just plop your thumb down, and then just do it. So if I'm in the finger guard position, right, then what's going to happen is when I do my pivot, because I'm already in this position because I'm ready to pivot if I want, right? Maybe I'm dash dancing, maybe I wave dash, and I'm literally just ready to pivot. Once I pivot, as you saw before, I end up putting my thumb against the base here, and then you literally just tap it up against your thumbnail, because the raised part of the thumbnail is high enough that you're going to get your down tilt when you just tap it up against. So all you end up doing is you just end up doing this, getting this here, and doing that. And obviously, there's a tiny bit of precision. You're probably not going to get D-smash most of the time. At worst, if you were too high, then maybe now, when you tilt, you're going to get jabbed, right? You want to be low enough to where you're going to get the D-tilt. And as long as you do that, then this technique works pretty well. The other option that you have is, but you know, it's a little less rigid. Like this one, you can literally just tap down as fast as you want. You're not worried about going too far because it's going to stop when it hits your thumbnail, right? The other method is, let's see, like that. So that's the gravy method, right? You dash side, and then you go low. And you'll see that you end up getting an empty pivot. Now this method of empty pivots actually is more conducive to doing a pivot down tilt. I just showed you how to do the gravy pivot, right? And when you do the gravy pivot, so you're gonna dash one way, dash the other way, roll it into the bottom notch, right? So now I'm here, you're gonna let that slip off, and now you're already in position. If you're on finger guard position, right? Then imagine you did this, that's a gravy pivot, you let go, your finger's already ready as soon as you let go to just go to that spot here. Now you just press down and A to get your down tilt, right? Because you're pressing it against the thumbnail now. The thumbnail, as long as it's resting on this ridge, your thumbnail is lifted enough to where you're going to get the down tilt. And you can press it as hard and fast as you want, you're going to get it. So the gravy method, unlike just the side-to-side release method I use for up tilt, that I find faster because I'm not tilting the stick super low and then going super high. Maybe I waste an extra frame or two in here in this motion. For the gravy method, that's better for down tilt because where it leaves the joystick is better in transitioning from the pivot into the down tilt. So it's going to be faster overall. So the gravy method I recommend when you're doing pivot down tilts from a finger guard position. That way you can just do the pivot and then it's going to leave you in the down tilt position. All you have to do is let go of the stick. Now you're put your thumb down right where it was and then use your finger guard now to just press inward like this and push it against the thumb. Alright guys, that's pivot up tilts and pivot down tilts. Just to recap, we covered how to switch between the finger guard and non-finger guard position, or we can either play holding the controller in this position rigidly, right? Or we can extend our finger here and have more of a loose grip that we can use to work shield or L cancels. And it's pretty much free. Like pivot up tilts are cake. All right, it's super easy. You can learn how to do them probably within 10 minutes, and honestly, within about an hour, you can do reliable pivot up tilts back to back to back. So as long as you have a good empty pivot controller, that's pretty much the only thing that's hard is learning how to do empty pivots. If you look at a player like Zane, you can see they can do empty pivots to both sides, just boom, 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 boom. It's not a problem. So if you have a good controller for empty pivots, then honestly, pivot up tilt is 100% free. Pivot down tilt now, actually the more demanding technique. Pivot down tilt requires a bit more precision when executing it. Either doing the gravy method where you're going to do your pivot right and end here and let go, and now your thumb is in position to do the down tilt, right? Or the other technique that I discussed where you're dashing with a low dash, that means like a down diagonal dash, and then you dash on the other side at the same height, and then you roll it into the notch and press the A button, and you're going to get down tilt on the first frame. Like you don't have, once again, it's a frame one technique, so that's as good as it gets. But once again, it requires a bit of precision. So you have 1/3 of the bottom half of the stick gate that you can hit the dash in, and when you travel from one side to the other, you can literally use the bottom 2/3 of this bottom half of the gate. So sorry to give you those Bernie numbers there, but basically, you know, it's fairly lenient enough to be practical, but it is more precise than literally just having your finger here and mashing up an A like a Neanderthal. So pivot up tilt, 100% free, easy as cake. You know, you guys should literally have this in your game. There's no excuse for you not to have it. Not wanting to learn the technique to be able to do it isn't really an excuse when you can hold the controller the way you want to and literally switch on a moment's notice just to have pivot up tilts. I think it's totally worth it. So, you know, here's to you putting in an hour of your time to learn how to do it and reaping all the benefits because it's pretty amazing. There's a lot of characters that benefit from this. Characters like Link or Game & Watch or, you know, etc. There are a lot of characters that have really, really great up tilts. and that could really benefit from dash back, pivot up tilt, even Jigglypuff, etc. So, or Marth, you know, a lot of characters have a really good dash back, pivot up tilt. Even like Samus, like I could imagine like dash back, pivot up tilt would be pretty powerful pressure wise, depending on how they're mixing it into their boxing game. So, you know, just think about it, try it out, use it. Last thing I want to mention, guys, is for Marth, is something, you know, dash forward, double pivot up tilt, right? This is actually a game changer against Jigglypuff. So the idea is, if you do a normal pivot up tilt, let's say I dash forward, right? And I pivot, now I'm facing away from Puff, right? So when I up tilt, this hitbox, the back end, is the slowest hitbox to come out. It takes all these frames before it finally gets around to the back end. And it only goes about that deep before it disappears. The other side, right? It comes out faster, and that's the most important part. So if you do the double pivot up tilt, right? Then you can basically advance forward into up tilt. Like, instead of doing just dash into up tilt, right? You can do the double pivot up tilt, and you can advance forward while also getting the fast hitboxes of the up tilt. And against Jigglypuff, it's just a great option. So take that, and I guess that's all about I have to say for the video, guys. Take it easy, practice these techniques, improve. You know, a lot of people, pivot up tilts have been, you know, underutilized for a long, long time, and honestly, it's pretty consistent. Like, I mean, it literally just takes learning a couple techniques, and you don't have to change the way you regularly play the game. You can either switch, or you can actually just change the way you hold the controller, you know, between either this one or this one. But yeah, guys, I mean, it's out there. Pick it up, run with it. It's yours. Make that money, push that metagame, and I'll see you in the future.